What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Hope everybody's doing well today. First of all, hope everybody had an amazing July 4th holiday for sure, full of fireworks and NC State commits. So, yeah. We'll definitely talk about those two commitments today. But first of all, again, if you haven't already, make sure again to, first of all, just send us a comment. Let us know who's here with us. Let us know what questions you have, thoughts you have, or just say, hey, whatever it may be. Again, love to know kind of who's here with us, since we just can see how many, but we can't necessarily see who's here with us. But anyway, though, make sure as well that if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, which is free to do. Make sure you don't miss out whenever we release any new in-state content. Give this video a like, and also to us a comment as well if you don't mind. But again, so obviously a huge weekend of obviously one of the things too is that we're talking about 9 days now instead of 7 days, because obviously typically we would do it every week, but now we're covering 9 days instead of 7 days, and definitely there has been a 9 days worth of new stuff that has happened for sure. But the first thing though we'll get to, obviously, before we get to the biggest piece, which is obviously what the heck is going on with the ACC right now. First of all, we got to jump into our Tuffy's Weekly Rewind. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. All righty. So, oh man. Hey, what's up, Tom? It's a family friend of ours, so appreciate you tuning in, Tom. Yeah, and but by the way, too, and throw out all the beans out there that he is a diehard ECU fan. So he's still love him, but hey, we're not all perfect, right? So, but first thing, I think we got to talk about first before we talk about the ACC expansions, because I think this is honestly one of the biggest pieces of news is our Learfield Director Cup finish for 2021-22. Finished 17th place, which is our second highest finish ever, and the first time in school history with back-to-back top 25 finishes in the Directors Cup. So again, it goes back to how amazing of a job Debbie Howe did, and it goes to an amazing job of what Boo Corrigan's been able to do of really keeping the ships, keeping the wheel steady, and keeping everything moving forward, and helping support the staff, the players, you name it. So I mean, just huge win for this athletic program that I think honestly we're still at the beginning stages. I think that next year I see again, I think that men's basketball, if we can just have a halfway decent season for men's basketball and then do everything we did this year athletically, which I think is definitely possible, then I mean you're right there in the top 15. So
baseball we'll too, we got no points for that.
That's true. Yeah. So it's 2 years in a row that we got points pulled out from under us. But again, we've already covered that plenty in previous episodes. But I mean, so yeah, Greg. I mean, obviously it's kind of going over these numbers here. So a total of 11 teams finished their seasons in the top 20. 7 finished in the top 10, and 4 teams finished in the top 5. So, I mean, and obviously having multiple national champions, 4 individual national championships, 4 team conference championships, and 1 national championship, 1 team national championship with women's cross country. So, I mean, it's just clear that obviously, again, that it's a great time to buy stock in in-state athletics right now, for sure.
Yeah, I like Michael said, I expect bigger things next year. Volleyball's trending up, soccer's definitely trending up. We've got some earlier draft classes that should start paying dividends. Football, we expect a big run. If we win an ACC championship, maybe make a college football playoff, there's more points there. We expect baseball to be back. Maybe swimming and diving. Like I can go on. I can probably spend another 5 minutes and list off a bunch of other teams that are gonna start either stepping up or continuing their level of excellence. So, like you said, we're all bullish on NC State athletic stock. So invest now.
Absolutely. Yeah, for real, or miss the train doing so. But yeah, so now we can kind of jump into more of the beef, and definitely interested in those who are tuning with us. Make sure again to let us know your thoughts on this topic that has become crazy to say the least for anybody who has any kind of love in college athletics in general. Obviously, the biggest piece of news being that USC and UCLA officially announced they were leaving the Pac-12 and they will officially join the Big Ten in 2024. So that's coming up here soon, which is crazy. And now it's really kind of caused this whole shift now that apparently kind of filling everybody in. So the biggest piece of recent news is that apparently Notre Dame said no to the Big Ten's offer of joining the Big Ten. And also, too, it basically seems like that where we are when it comes to Notre Dame is that if Notre Dame stays where they are in terms of staying independent, that it'll likely be that the Big 12, either way, will probably go after a bunch of Pac-12 teams to fill it.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of seems to be the writing on the wall. And then for ACC wise, I think that the most obvious choices right now are, again, if we can convince Notre Dame to come over, and then it seems like West Virginia, but again, I'm not sold on West Virginia for two reasons, and I'm kind of curious on y'all's thoughts. Again, obviously ACC academic wise has a high standing in terms of it has a high bar that it sets academically. I think 4 private schools, while the Big Ten only has 1. And obviously West Virginia wise, it just they're not their alumni aren't necessarily bringing in the most money either. So that's really kind of my two kind of drawbacks in terms of West Virginia. But from a positive wise, there's a lot of natural rivalries with Virginia Tech, and mainly Pitt. It's not an opponent that will have to travel far to, if in-state fans want to go, support state playing at West Virginia. It's a great environment. They can support in football and basketball, men's basketball, which would be great. So, where are you guys kind of heads on that? I guess, Michael, I'll let you kind of start first. What's your head at when it comes to West Virginia potentially?
I think if both sides wanted it, I think it would happen. I don't think the academics would stop that from happening. And I think they would be a good fit geographically and the rivalries. And, West Virginia, that's a name that's been thrown around since
for a long time.
20. Yeah. Even with Virginia Tech and Miami coming over, I think they were discussed then too. Yep. I would be, I think, I don't know how much more leverage that gives the ACC. Because like you said, it is a smaller fan base, a passionate but smaller fan base. But I'd be for it.
Yeah, Greg.
Yeah, if West Virginia comes in, it's got to be part of a package. There has to be. If it's just West Virginia, they better be coming with about 4 to 6 other teams. Because it, maybe even more than that, to be honest with you. As far as the academics piece, look, that's what got us in this mess anyway. When I say us, the ACC, they focus so much on academics and not athletics. The Big Ten doesn't really care about it. And look where they're at. Look where the SEC is at. So who cares about that? It's about getting ahead of the problem, i.e., being left in the dust. Right now, the ACC is barely holding on to 3rd place in this whole thing. If there's any kind of merger between a Pac-12, Big 12, ACC now slides to 4th, and then that's basically the writing on the wall. So at this point, Commissioner Phillips, just go get creative, make something up. Figure it out. You've been on the job a year. You looked at the Big 12 and the Pac-12, and created this alliance, and it was one of these deals, looking eye to eye. That didn't get you anywhere. So go figure it out, big boy. You're getting paid a lot of money. Go figure it out.
Yeah, but Chuck Coates did bring up a good point, saying that if we added West Virginia, it would add another wrestling team to the conference. So, I'm all for that for sure.
I'm all for that, but wrestling ain't moving the needle. This is football. So, but no, they do have a good program.
That's true.
And bring on another wrestling program. Let's make wrestling bigger. But that's a byproduct.
Well, and Shane kind of, again, I'll read Shane's comment here. Shane Richardson saying, I struck several nerves today, all because I said if this realignment is all about football, it seems odd that UNC would be in the conversation. UNC fans don't even watch UNC football. And the first thing, which I'll kind of touch on that point there, Shane, is that it's very clear, and one of the biggest issues I think that myself and a lot of people have about this is that this conversation is all about football. But for schools such as NC State, where we're not just all about football, we're about women's basketball, we're about baseball, we're about men's basketball,
wrestling.
This isn't even about men's basketball, which basketball is a huge thing. So it literally has nothing to do with that. So again, why is all of this basically why is an entire schools gonna basically, that's all decided by football, going to impact every single sport, and because again, there's a lot of interesting scenarios now, and especially because again, like football, they have a lot of finance behind it, so they have, you basically have a charter plane, but like for school, for like a lot of sports that have the financial backing, again, keep this in mind, that don't have planes to charter that, will do like a charter bus or things like that. What if there's like these scenarios of like some Pac-12 teams joining the Big 12 or Pac-12 teams joining the ACC? So how are they going to get ACC teams going, like ACC women's volleyball, for example, going to afford to get to these places? It's something to think about, and that's why also too, again, West Virginia is very enticing because again, it doesn't bring a burden to the smaller teams, but that's kind of where my head's at. But UNC. Go ahead, Greg, please.
No, I was going to say the football dollars wash the travel. That's not even really a non-starter for me. They're going to make so much money. The rumored Big Ten deal is $1 billion a year, divided by 14. Like travel money doesn't mean anything at that point. Now you could argue that it's not in the best interest of the student athlete, but again, that argument's been thrown away years ago too. So, but just to piggyback off of Shane, like, okay, Georgia Tech's in the mix. When has Georgia Tech been decent in football? Like, you'd have to go back to like when Demarius Thomas was there. I mean, it's been a while. UVA, again, they're in the conversation. They've not been the best. So even Duke is kind of borderline in the conversation. Say no more about that one. So this is about brands and TV markets, bottom line.
Well, and because like right now, obviously the three big names they see that are, the potential ones to leave are Florida State, Clemson, and Miami
for the SEC.
Correct. Right. And so basically, for those who don't know, one of the biggest things right now, basically keeping these schools in, is the grant of rights. And just kind of basically give a quick summary in terms of rights. It's basically an agreement that was signed by all the ACC teams back in 2013,
including Notre Dame.
Include Notre Dame. So basically meaning that any money that the ACC gets from its deal with ESPN belongs to the conference. So basically meaning that, if, for example, I think last year the ACC got like $530 million from ESPN deals. And so basically you take that, you split it among all the teams. And so I think that contract the grant of rights goes through 2036, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep. On a sliding scale.
Correct. So one of the scenarios that's been thrown out there is that, if Miami, Clemson, Florida State, or whoever, Notre Dame wanted to get out of the grant of rights, that you could get to court and basically have lawyers attempt to basically make the argument that the grant of rights is inapplicable or unjust, whatever the word is, but basically that it's not fair, that we should get rid of it. And so that would be the biggest key, because I think that if that blows up, just like it's opening the top of the bee's nest, like it's just waiting for all the bees just to fly in each different direction, and that's basically what that would be. And
but you're also missing a point there too. If 6 teams roll, all bets are off.
Sure. Well, that's what the Big 12's deal is, right? I mean, again, like in the Big 12 and the Pac-12, there's a very heavy rumor that the Pac-12 can lose 4 to 6 teams, even more than just UC and UCLA. It's craziness. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, so the grant of rights is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to keep the teams in the conference right now, and so far we haven't seen or heard any ACC teams leaving. And it's just these other moves that happened with Texas and Oklahoma and USC and UCLA is because their grant of rights were expiring in 2024 and 2025. So they were already at the point where they're negotiating a new contract with the conferences, so they can leave their conferences with no penalty. Now, with the ACC,
buyout was small.
Yeah, or the buyout was small enough, right? So with the ACC, you've got 14 more years. That's like 9 figures in TV revenue that a team has to come up with if they want to get out of the grant of rights, which isn't feasible for really any team at this point, which I think is why you haven't seen any teams leave yet.
Yep. And like you said, the best option is to challenge it, because you could challenge it for a lot cheaper. So
yeah, right. And again, just to kind of put that into one big summary, and I know we've mentioned this last year, but just as a reminder that basically what Michael's getting at is that if a team wants to leave, basically what they would be missing out on is their split of the ACC ESPN contract money. So, which is, let's say around $40 million per year, and then over 14 years. So that's $560 million that the school will be losing out on over the 14-year period. So
remember, it slides. So it'll slide. So it'll be a little bit. So really, if you're looking at escaping, you're not going to escape before about 26 to 28, somewhere in that. In that, it might even be like 28-30, to be honest with you. But regardless, it's a lot of chunk of change, and in a $1 billion contract, you're only looking at $100 million of that, if you will, or not even that, probably like 750. So you're basically throwing your money away for 10 years if you want to make the jump for what, a potential playoff spot. That's all you're gaining,
because you have to pay back that money to the ACC. You're granting your rights to the conference. That's why that's the name. So
exactly, yeah. And then Justin add in the agreement that West Virginia and Notre Dame would be preferred. So definitely agreements there on that. All right. So with that being said, we're going to jump on over here to our Tuffy's Tweets of the Week. So here we go. So first tweet that we wanted to bring up is one by Dennis Dodd, announcing that CBS Sports has confirmed that the ACC Pac-12 have discussed a quote-unquote loose partnership that include a quote-unquote championship game in Las Vegas as a way to get ESPN to pay more. So obviously,
not an alliance.
Yeah, not an alliance.
Not an alliance.
Which again, I guess the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the Big Ten just pissed all over that alliance the first time around. But again, it's just obviously basically what this is. Basically, ESPN, kind of probably said something to obviously CBS Sports saying, hey, it's kind of enticing if we were to have a Pac-12. I guess the top Pac-12 opponent compete against, the top ACC opponent in a championship game in Las Vegas. So, that'd be cool. Probably, I guess, in the new Raider Stadium. So, sure, that'd be cool. But again, it's just like, let's just make a super conference. Let's just make a super conference. Let's just make a super conference. That's what this tweet is honestly telling me. Like, let's just make super conferences. That's where we're heading.
And it doesn't make sense to lock into that with the Pac-12 when we're talking about that the other Pac-12 schools are looking to get out of the Pac-12 as well. So
what remains of it, and I didn't really read the article because I just kind of laughed it off because I'm just like, it just doesn't make any sense on so many reasons. One, now you're taking away an ACC championship game, so in theory, what if this is it. It could be a horrible Pac-12 team that you're going to face in this quote-unquote championship game. So you could be giving up a potential top 10, top 15 opponent in an ACC championship game to go play an unranked Pac-12 person. I mean, what good does this do? Because you've already, to Michael's point, you've already watered down the Pac-12, so you've taken away USC, which is supposedly on the rise now with Lincoln Riley. UCLA, well, we all love UCLA, right? So,
yeah,
yeah.
But I mean, maybe in Oregon, maybe a Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon,
Utah.
Stanford, and Washington, and Utah are probably the four best. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, and because the interesting thing, so the idea is the rumor again is that the Big 12 is looking at Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, and then perhaps even going after Oregon and Washington to join the Big 12 to make up for those teams that were lost. So again, it's just like, is the Pac-12 in any kind of a state right now to make any kind of agreements like this right now? That's kind of where my head's at. I mean, they're like, seriously, like what are we making an agreement with right now? Like, who knows?
Now we're gonna just look them in the eye, and if you can't trust them, then no. I mean, look, just merge the conferences, figure it out. You take your Pac-12, your Big 12, whatever. Just go make it happen.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
It's like it's our only hope, Obi-Wan. Like that's the only thing you can do.
Well, again, it's kind of crazy to even think about, because I know, Greg, you and I were talking, and because Notre Dame, there's really options that are on this side of the spectrum, and then there's options that are on the far other side of the spectrum in terms of what they can do. Being an ACC, whether it's going to a conference, where they are, whether it's and correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of kind of basically moving away from athletics, period. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, here's the one thing that we will say before we get, even further down this rabbit hole is there's so much information out there. So there's a lot to digest. And so I've read a ton of articles, and they're from people from national publications. I think the one I saw was like from Yahoo or whatever. But, they've even floated out the idea that, Notre Dame say the heck with it. We don't need athletics. We're an institution of higher learning, and we focus on academics. They've got a huge endowment for that. The article even mentioned that, they've gone in the past and suspended, key players in the middle of the season because of poor academics.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're one of those schools that don't play. They're kind of like, you have to qualify academically before you can even think about getting a scholarship, much like Stanford and Duke to maybe a lesser degree. They don't play. You qualify academically, and then we'll talk sports. So, so there's all kinds of things out there. And, the other thing, the SEC is kind of protecting Notre Dame. They had a seat at the table of the last CFP. The SEC is happy to let them, kind of give them some top cover, because it's basically for the SEC, it's addition by subtraction. As long as they don't join the Big Ten, it's a win for the SEC. Yeah. That's kind of where it's at for them.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. Just wanted to kind of get that clarification, because I remember when you mentioned that I think myself, probably a lot of people listening / watching right now went, okay, like that would be a mind explosion, to say the least, for sure. Probably the biggest mind explosion so far, even over Texas, Oklahoma, even Notre Dame even considered that. But again, right now it's just the conferences and the teams are holding all of their cards so close to the chest right now. There really is no viable information out there. It's mostly speculation. Like, again, even the West Virginia one that we've been reading, it's just basically off of two things: Notre Dame announcing publicly they said no to the Big 12, Big 10, and the gold and blue dude who's a West Virginia / college YouTube channel out there predicting a while ago that West Virginia is going to join the ACC. So basically, off of those two things alone, they're saying, oh, it's very likely that West Virginia is going to join the ACC. Which I'm like, well, you cannot put those two things together and draw that conclusion,
right?
Realistically, but,
and again, remember Notre Dame said no to the Big Ten because they have to by the grant of rights. So, they're gonna hold out until they can't hold out anymore. I think that they're gonna be the last of the Mohicans and say, okay, now I have to make a decision. They're gonna wait this out and to get the best sweetheart deal, whether that's potentially challenging the grant of rights, whether it's the ACC dissolving on its own, whatever. They're gonna hold out until their hand is forced.
Absolutely.
This is a team that's been independent since basically the beginning of football for them, so they're not in a hurry.
No, absolutely not.
All right. So now our next tweet of the week, and again, I know it's kind of small for those who are watching, but so I think it was it Greg? Was it you or Michael that sent this tweet
I think it was Michael or Macon.
Macon. It was
Yeah,
Macon.
Megan actually sent it. Okay. Basically, it was a tweet basically talking about the money that could come in terms of with this conference realignment, basically talking about, and basically it has different bubbles for each of the teams in the conferences and basically showing how big and large the impact can be money-wise, specifically for the Southeast, and Eastern Coast, East Coast in general, actually, and so, and basically it was Joe Milner quote tweeting it saying, with this chart, the ACC/Pac-12 partnership makes a lot of sense for each and for ESPN, which I thought was an interesting conclusion for sure.
Is he being sarcastic in that? I couldn't tell. Or is he being serious? I was saying.
I'm like, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring it up, because to me, I'm like, it's either like a huge like eye opener, or it's like, yeah, no, this dude's screwing with us, because basically, I mean, Pac-12 and the ACC partnering together would make no sense.
A nightmare. That's a nightmare.
It'd be a nightmare.
Yeah,
an absolute nightmare.
But I do not want to watch a game at 11 o'clock at night.
No, exactly.
Well, I think he's being, because the map is showing the biggest media markets in the U.S. So I think he's saying, just looking at this chart, it would make sense for partnership because there are big media markets out west in California and Seattle.
Sure.
And I think he is being serious, saying it would make sense from that point of view.
That's the only point of view it can make. It's the only point of view it can make sense. Right. Yeah.
It would make a lot of sense from a national eyes perspective for sure. I mean, obviously seeing like Stanford versus NC State, the battle of the Blockbusters, that would be super interesting. And and like seeing like Oregon versus like Clemson, that'd be crazy. But again, you're losing the local money again. I mean, it's at games you're almost going to see almost no visiting, support for the most part. You do it once, and then you probably won't do it for another 10 years. In terms of going to see Oregon, going to Oregon to see NC State play. Like, I mean, nobody's going to make that trip every 2 years. It's not going to happen.
Can I throw a hypothetical out there?
Go for it.
Which would you prefer, Big 12, Pac-12, if you have to do a merger, based on today? If nothing else changes.
I think Big 12.
Big 12, yeah. Yeah.
For what reason? Sure. For basketball reasons or for football reasons?
I was thinking football, but for basketball, it makes more sense.
I mean, Big 12 was Texas Tech and.
Well, remember, this is all being driven by football, so.
Sure, I know, but again, right now, it comes down to that the Pac-12 is literally disintegrating before my eyes, while the Big 12 is looking to make moves. That's what I'm saying. Is like basically seems like right now that the Big 12 is the one making the moves, while the Pac-12 is just disintegrating and can't stop it. So, but also too, then you would get your West Virginia. You would get, I think that's where Houston, Cincinnati are going to, if I'm not mistaken, as well, or.
Yep, you're right. Houston, Cincinnati, and Baylor. Houston, Cincinnati, Central Florida.
And BYU.
Yeah, BYU. That's right.
And BYU. So again, I mean, there's a lot of interesting matchups there and a lot of interesting potential there. But also too, it's just not really as much of a stretch in terms of travel wise, because Pac-12, every single team that we're considering right now is all the way on the West Coast, while most of these teams are Central, at farthest kind of deal, Central U.S. at farthest. So
you have you have a couple of mountain, but your point's still fairly valid.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, but again, it all comes down to that. I think that the case scenario is that the best case scenario right now is hold on to what we got and focus on making sure the grant rights holds up, and then do all that we can to try and get Notre Dame in on the ACC, because I think that if Notre Dame comes into the ACC, then you're immediately in the same side. I mean, just adding Notre Dame will be huge for the ACC.
Yeah, I don't think they need to add anybody else if they can get Notre Dame full time in football.
And here's the other thing to remember too, and I don't want to get too far into what we talked about with Joe last night, but remember he said you don't have to add multiple teams. So if we add one, if it's just Notre Dame, who cares? Like we don't have to. They don't have to have a dance partner anymore.
And just to clarify, because of the news about getting rid of the divisions,
Correct.
Yeah.
and that's not too. Which again, I didn't.
Oh,
We
yeah,
haven't even
that's
talked
news.
about that. On a,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
that's big news. Jeez, I know.
it is. It is big
Well,
news.
again, I mean, just covering 9 days instead of 7 days. So,
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, so I guess we can kind of touch base on that real quick
Sure.
in terms of
We're there.
again the getting rid of the divisions starting, and I mean it's obviously interesting. And again, basically, there's 2 different state fan perspectives on the 3 teams that we play every single year in a home back and forth, which is Clemson, Duke, and UNC. UNC is no shocker. I actually like Duke. I think that Duke is just kind of adds that local excitement a little bit. You know, I know that obviously Duke is nothing to write home about with football right now. I get that. But because also too, this would this also be for basketball as well?
No, just strictly football.
It's just football.
Yeah, because there's no
no
divisions in basketball.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's what I thought. Just wanted to confirm that. So Benjamin said he likes it, and yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. Again, like you're basically, because 2020, the thing I loved about that year is playing Georgia Tech, playing Miami, playing Duke, playing you know, again, it was a lot of different teams that you normally wouldn't play, and because every single year is pretty much like, okay, who did we play home last year? We're going to play them away this year. And whoever we played away this year, we're playing them at home next year, and then so forth. So like the schedule release wasn't ever, in my opinion, really that interesting, because you already knew way years in advance who your non-conference opponents are going to be, and then you know pretty much for the most part, because of it's a cycle, who your conference opponents are going to be. So it's like forward to an ACC schedule release. But now it's like, I mean, it's a little bit exciting. So, but
so the one thing I'll say about it is, you know, historically, and I'm going to say historically, when I say historically, the last 20 years, right? We've struggled against Clemson, so that's typically been a loss. You know, so hopefully that we, you know, last year we erased that demon, and then hopefully now we'll get them again. We've been more on the positive against Carolina, and Duke is obviously we haven't played Duke very much in the last 20 years, but they've struggled with the exception of like 1 or 2 years. With that being said, if you're going to take a loss against Clemson, at least you're getting it back with Duke, and then usually, you know, 50-50 with Carolina. So I think that's pretty fair if you think about it in those terms.
Yeah. I was thinking it was going to be Wake Forest, which
I did
you
too,
know, because that rivalry, you know, is
runs deep,
100 years, more than 100 years.
I think it's 120, right?
It's a long time.
It's a long one. Yeah, I think it's only second to Carolina and Virginia.
Yeah, I know people were upset about that. But like you said, with Clemson, that's going to be a tough game every single time, and we're probably going to lose more than we win. So having that easy win against Duke in there it kind of balances out. So I do like it.
But again, it just comes back to it today again, that kind of what I was trying to finish saying earlier, but I kind of never got right to. Again, basically, there's state fans are thinking it 2 ways, basically saying, oh my gosh, like, you know, we have to, you know, we still have to play Clemson every single year. But then there's the other side, including myself, saying, well, if you want to be that football program that's top of the ACC, competing every single top 25, competing for the ACC championship, then I'm really okay with every single year having a top 10 matchup on my schedule just from Clemson alone. And so
another thing to add to that about playing Clemson is this whole conference realignment is all about brands. Playing Clemson on a national stage every year will help with our brand.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
That's true. That's a good point.
And the interesting thing is I don't think this is going to be permanent. Like the way they released it only looked like it was going to be like a 4-year, 5-year spread. So that potentially they could reevaluate this and see how it works itself out. And there may be some tweaks to it. So keep that in mind, that because this is the way it plays out today, doesn't necessarily, and assuming we stay together as an ACC conference, right? So that obviously drives the conversation, but maybe in 5 years they might revisit it and tweak it. So don't get too upset.
Forest
And
because that. Man, all of us talked at the same time.
That wasn't
Go
me.
ahead, Michael.
I wasn't saying anything.
You go like
Okay. Well, 'cause again, obviously, too, one of the biggest state fans' pet peeves has always been, and we actually, this was a part of our things that state fans never say, was giving the Coastal Division crap. And because I think the stat is that in the last 10 years, every single team in the Coastal Division has seen an ACC championship game appearance at some point.
Yep.
While on the Atlantic side, it's pretty much only been Wake Forest last year, and then then Florida State and Clemson flipped it back and forth.
Mhm.
So the other 9 years, so much more competitive for sure on the Atlantic side, and especially this year. Like again, I don't even have it up here, but again, didn't talk about either about how FPI has this as like a 1.1% chance to make it to the college football playoff, but that's okay. It is what it is. You know.
The one thing I'll say though about the new alignment, that as I was listening to ACC radio today, I think last week or something, they were talking about this. Only 1 year in the last 12 years had this format been in place, the two best teams would still met each other in the ACC playoff or championship game. So it's been kind of consistent, but now they're just spreading it out a little differently.
Yeah, I think I did see that too, but it's also that the Coastal Division winner is only playing Coastal teams.
Correct.
Traditionally, the bottom teams in the Coastal have been worse than the bottom teams in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
So
and that was my argument when I was yelling at the radio when I was coming home from work. No, you're cherry picking it. Like, yeah.
No, and again, I think that one of the biggest kind of drawbacks is, well, what if you have a rematch in the championship game? And I'm not necessarily really against that. I mean, I think it's honestly more like, again, if I'm in state, let's put it this way: like if I'm in state and we beat Clemson, but we have to Clemson again in the championship game, is more nerve wracking. Yes, because but I mean, I think it's a lot more exciting because
it was.
Yeah, I mean, well, I know. I'm saying, if my team is not in that boat, if my team is not Notre Dame in 2020, I'm super excited about it. And especially if I'm a Clemson fan, I'm definitely excited about that because I'm like, that's the first time, but I'll bet you're not getting this the second time.
Yeah.
So I'm basically saying that as long as you're not in that Notre Dame position where you get them the first time and I have to face them a second time for the championship now, then you're loving it because you know it's going to be a very exciting matchup. I mean, they're going to have a lot of tape on each other. They're going to know each other very well. So it's going to be a great game. And it was a great game.
I thought it was awesome. Yeah.
So
I mean, it would suck to have to play Clemson twice, but at the same time, a loss to them the first time doesn't eliminate you now. Like as in years past, if we lost to Clemson, we weren't winning the division.
Right. Because they had to lose twice.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So you could still make it and have that rematch. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it.
And you bring up a good point there, Michael, without maybe realizing it. It keeps the playoff or it keeps the championship game opponents alive deeper into the season, right? So like to your point, and it's not an elimination game in September, as long as you're hanging around with one loss, you're in it pretty much to the very end. So they have that stupid saying coastal chaos. Now you could have Atlantic Coast Conference chaos, right? So it's a lot different.
Absolutely. So I definitely excited about that. So now moving on to our next tweet of the week and talking about July 4th excitement, the announcement of Damian Fagan and Marcus Cooley announcements of
double dipper. I like it.
A double dipper. Yep. Damian Fagan was a 4-star safety, and then Marcus Cooley, 3-star athlete. I think that a lot of rumors are he's playing defensive back as well, but could kind of use him all over the field. And again, right now it's exciting times right now. I think that there's I definitely, I've followed Pride and Inside Pack Sports, Wolfpacker, and those guys for quite some time. I've definitely never seen this much excitement about a class, in terms of what's going to come. Again, all this is happening before we've even played one game of football yet for the season. Right. Like I kind of think back to, I think it was Pack 18 or 16, or maybe it was somewhere between 16 and 17 when we had Naeem Hines, Reggie Gillespie, Darian Roseborough, Johnny Frazier. That class was big. Kind of really started to come to fruition during the season. season. And so it's what's kind of crazy to me right now is I'm four-star commits right now per 247. And
Yeah, 3 or 4.
we literally are 2 months away still, or a month and some change away still from the our first football game. So a lot more, especially once football starts, and especially when recruits see that new Ellie show for sure. I think they're going to see a lot of instant commits for sure.
Did that happen in the last 9 days too? I feel like that happened in the last 9 days.
It did.
Who says the offseason's slow?
Really.
I just think it's going to be crazy. It's going to be so cool, so huge, and because one of the things that we put out as well, and for those who didn't see it, I was actually eating lunch on Tuesday, and I was just on YouTube, and there was a video of a guy who kind of recorded some of the recruits during the official visit to UNC. So me being curious, I was like, well, let me watch it to see kind of what a UNC official visit.
Oh, we lost him.
My fault.
Oh, he's
back. I was trying to turn the PowerPoint off and I turned my video off by accident. And Tamarcus Cooley was there, and then Kevin Concepcion. And basically Tamarcus Cooley was saying that Kevin, Tamarcus, Noah Rogers, and he also patted a UNC 4-star wide receiver commit as well, saying we're all going to be playing together. And so not even a couple of days later, Tamarcus commits to NC State. And, obviously there's a lot of potential of Kevin Concepcion, 4-star wide receiver, coming to state as well. And then Noah Rogers, I mean, we all know a bit more about it. We've kind of talked a little bit off air about it. But, I mean, there are a ton of signs that Noah Rogers is by no means locked into Ohio State. Everybody says, well, he committed to Ohio State.
Verbal.
Well, again, it's a verbal commitment, and there's a lot of reasons for a verbal commit because and this happened, and again, just a reminder, this happened with Johnny Frazier from my conversations with him, that basically he committed to Florida State, not because he was necessarily 100% sold, but because if he didn't commit, then he was going to lose that scholarship spot. So I think that is a very likely possibility to commit to Ohio State, because Ohio State had a ton. They were getting commits from 5 stars, 4 stars left and right. So probably more likely the Ohio State coaching staff said, if you don't commit to us, then we're going to have to move on and give this scholarship to somebody else. I truly think that is a very, very likely scenario.
Yeah, I don't think you have to wear a tin hat to come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, the tea leaves are out there. If you just spend 5 minutes looking at different Instagrams, Twitters, I said Twitters and Instagrams. I feel like I'm a boomer now. I just said that completely bad. But I mean, the Twitters. But no, the signs are out there. I mean, and who was? I think it was Cooley that said that I wasn't giving up on you, and I think that was directed at Noah Rogers. Was that right, or was it Lex, or maybe both? I can't remember.
There's been a couple. There's been a couple guys that said that Noah Rogers. So it's very clear that the commitments in general have said.
So this isn't just three crazy guys on a podcast saying this. Like if you go out there, the potential is still there. We're not saying it's going to happen. We're not putting our lock of the week on it. So you're saying there's a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and because one other sign, which we kind of talked about this again offline as well, but a lot of times when somebody is committed, most of the time in the player's bio on their social media, they'll put, Florida State commit, NC State commit, Ohio State commit. Well, no, Rogers does not put in his biography Ohio State commit. He hasn't put anything. So that's a definite sign too. And then I truly think as well, because again, he still has official visits to take. So if you in Wolfpack Nation hear that no Rogers is taking his official visit to NC State, I'm taking that as a huge, huge likelihood that he's going to commit to state, because you can bet the house that Kevin Concepcion, Tamarcus Cooley, Lex Thomas, all those guys are going to be with him during that visit.
Court press.
And it's going to be no Rogers is going to sell right in. It. Mm-hmm. I to me, this kind of has a huge reading as well, like Darian Roseborough kind of deal, where he was kind of borderline between Michigan and NC State, and then once he visited, he committed on the spot right before the game started. I still remember seeing it and telling Nielsen, and Nielsen jumping on him, putting him in a headlock, and like,
Yeah.
So that was still one of the funniest I've ever seen.
And was
but
he?
yeah,
And was
Go
he? He was committed to Michigan too before that, and then flipped.
he was. Because I remember now because he committed a live stream. I remember Macon and we were trying to pull it up because we couldn't get it up, and then we saw that he committed on Twitter or whatever it was to Michigan, and he flipped to us. So,
It can be done.
The precedent's out there.
Yeah,
it's out there. So, and this next tweet kind of builds off of it. But Damon Fagan, the 4-star safety, is currently the highest ranked out-of-state kid that Dave Doran has ever landed, if he signs, of course. And Wolfpack Stead tweeted that. And to me, because I mean, the highest graded recruit that Doran's ever got signed is actually Johnny Frazier, believe it or not. And which, I mean, unfortunately that didn't really work out. But to me, it just comes back to that the NC State brand is growing. Not only North Carolina people know about NC State, nationwide people are starting to know about NC State and know, we're coming. Like I truly think that Doran has done a spectacular job of, again, not just taking off, and he's literally built everything from the ground up. He's really built first floor. He's built the second floor. He's done piece by piece, and I think that he's built it to last. And because, I mean, for example, again, I think it speaks wonder again to the culture that not only pretty much all the players that we can control. I mean, it literally took pretty much until the deadline where we basically said, listen, we have scholarship numbers we have to meet, so we have to let people go. That's pretty much but also too for the coaching staff to not leave either. I think that speaks wonders too. So again, just gotta, for me, I'll take a second to really just kind of give them hats off once again, specifically, but the staff in general in terms of what they've built here. I think that it's speaking over and over again right now. But
yeah, it's exciting time.
And I'm trying to remember who the connection was, and it was one of the wide receivers. I think it was Kelvin Harmon from New Jersey, who was So and that's how we ended up with Devin Leary. So people may not be aware of you, but we go out and we're starting to recruit. We've always done pretty decent in Florida, where Fagan's from, but now we've started to really branch out. We're not just so focused on North Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, Maryland a little bit, but we're getting out there. So as soon as you start marking your territory, and then you're like, oh, hey, like I remember like that guy from, Pig's Knuckle, wherever. So it's, exactly. It helps. It helps, so we're making progress, like you said.
Yep, absolutely. And again, I still kept on going through my head when I was watching that UNC official visit is how are you going to talk your way around really basically not doing much with Sam Howell career? Like, tell me how are you going to get around that you basically almost his career for the most part. I mean, you did nothing with it. So
I think it was what, 500?
They didn't mention it. So
maybe a couple games over 500.
He was. Yeah, I think he went. I think it was pretty much 7-5 again.
In terms
of regular season, and 6-6, 7 is last season. I can't remember if in 2020 they went 8-4.
2020.
Yeah,
so it snuck into the Orange Bowl because So you're talking their best quarterback ever, 4 games over 500. So
yeah, exactly. It's a shame. So, all right. So now moving on to one of the biggest pieces of news that came out today, actually, funny enough, which is the announcement of Vaughn Towers will now be known as the Town Bank Center. And one other piece too that I read as well that needs to be added to this news too is that apparently the suites on the second and third floor of the Town Bank Center are going to be rich suites. So the Richard Vaughn name is not going away completely. It's still, now it's just going to be the name of the suites on the second level, which is great, because I know from, some of the stuff I've heard that basically the Vaughn family, just wasn't able to contribute as much as they were. Obviously with Richard Vaughn and his wife, I don't even know if but so anyway, so obviously, yeah, there's a lot of stories out there, but obviously with Town Bank Center committing $5 million to NC State over 10 years is a 10-year commitment, and then there's also an extension opportunity in there as well for another 5 years at $2.5 million. So this agreement will go through 2033. And so again, I mean, it's crazy to think about. I'm still going to call it. I'm still just going to have to call it Vaughn Towers because I've never called it anything else. I've never called it anything different. It's just not like the Town Bank Center. It just doesn't roll off my tongue as easily as Vaughn Towers does. But
yeah, but so did when they changed PNC from the RBC Center to PNC Arena. That took a while to get used to.
Yeah.
True.
The weird thing about this one is the news has been out there for a while, and I guess today they finally made it official. So I mean, I read an article about this like a month ago. So I'm just kind of curious. Yeah. Maybe it was just a rumor before.
I think
they came to agreement. Go ahead.
I think it was they were looking. They announced they were looking for somebody to take over the naming rights. I don't think they had found anybody, and now they found somebody.
Yeah. So, but that's good. I mean, hey, money flow is money flow. We'll take it. So hopefully they're. I guess they're going to put some of that money towards game day improvements. So whatever that means. Maybe that's the beginning of a new scoreboard. Or audio,
sound system,
something, whatever. I'm happy for it. Anything you can do to enhance the game day experience to keep your fans engaged, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. And so let me ask you too, just kind of like a quick, fun, like kind of side thing. So if State were to add new seating, or I mean, do you think that's in the realm of possibility in terms of the future? I mean, do you see us expanding in terms of adding like another level or another tier or anything like that?
I think it's possible. I think we'll need to continue having success and
we need to have an
playing
ACC.
Well, and I got to be in a conference somewhere.
Sorry.
No, but I think the most likely, if we're just talking seating, the most likely thing would be to close in what is that, the north side end zone?
Yeah.
Where though? I mean, like you're talking.
You said
where the
not where
scoreboard
the
is.
Yeah, on both sides of the scoreboard.
Well, they had that seating there before, and they did.
It was temporary
kind of bleachers. Yeah, it was kind of bleacher-ish. Now they have this Tuffy terrace there. Yeah, I mean that, or you could do it on the opposite side of on the visitor side. I think you could add another level there. A long range project.
Yeah. But definitely, I think before you do any of that, I think you honestly have to do a huge redo of Carter Finley because, I mean, obviously it's over 50 years old. So I think that, if you were going to expand anything, you would just need to redo specifically a lot of pieces. And specifically, and live state fans know what I'm talking about, but on the visitor side, there's this one stair that is a little bit shorter than the rest of them, and it's painted yellow, but people trip over it left and right. So honestly, to me, it's like I'd rather just fix that so I don't have to literally watch people trip over a yellow stair every single time somebody goes up it.
So you're saying we're going to spend the $5 million on a stair? Is that what you're gonna? Because I mean, it sounds like the government. It sounds like the government involved here.
But it's so frustrating because it's like my seats are right beside it. So I'm literally like watching them, and I'm just like saying, "Watch." So
it's just a random stair in the aisle.
Just again, it was just a flaw when they originally built Carter Finley that there's one stair that's a little bit shorter than the rest of them, and so people trip on it every single time. And it's literally it's literally painted yellow.
Oh
I'm gonna need you to take a picture of this during the season. I want to.
Or just take a video of people falling.
Yeah. We should do an over under every week on people tripping.
How many? Oh, guaranteed. Whatever number you put out there, guarantee it's over. Guaranteed. It's almost every single time. It's annoying.
That's funny.
So, my seats are on the home side, so I've never experienced it. So I might have to come over just say hi, just so I can see it.
Yes, no, for sure. So as we kind of wrap things up here, kind of wanted to touch first on one small non-NC State thing, and then kind of talk, point out one funny tweet from our friend Wolfpack Roll as well. But big news today: Baker Mayfield, Carolina Panthers. Man, hey,
I mean, I like it.
Greg?
For a fifth round pick. I mean,
is that what it was?
Cheap.
Yeah, okay, that's a great deal.
They gave up a 2024 fifth round pick for Baker Mayfield,
and Baker agreed to take a pay cut.
Yeah, they're literally, and because the Browns are going to pay him $5 million, and then the Panthers are only going to pay $3.5 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
to get him. So
apparently they weren't allowed to trade Gatorade bottles for him.
Pretty much. But again, for me, I'm thinking, man, because first of all, I mean, I'm going to be a Browns fan. To be a Browns fan because Kobe Brissett more than likely is going to be the starting quarterback. Crazy enough. I mean, it doesn't seem like Deshaun Watson's going to. So I guess it's not really a non-NC State story because Jacoby Brissett is a part of it. But I mean, it does seem more likely that.
Yeah.
Yep, week 1 at Panthers, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
It is.
Yeah. So, man, poor Jacoby. He's going to be enemy number 1, public enemy number 1.
Oh gosh,
that's going to be a bunch of handing off to Nick Chubb. It's like just hand off to Nick Chubb 40 times a game.
Hey, I love me some Nick Chubb, cousin of Bradley Chubb. I love me some Nick Chubb. News.
It's definitely an upgrade.
Yeah, for sure. For Sam Darnold, absolutely. At least Baker is competitive as crap. So you know that first game. Anybody who's Spanish, just make sure to got Baker for just week 1. He's going to be the top corner, have 500 yards passing, 150 rushing, and touchdowns. He is going to light it up that first week.
Yeah.
Kind of wrapping up with our friend. Wolfpack Roll. So who tweeted out forth saying, "Guy ate 275 in 8 minutes. I would not wish that pain on anyone besides UNC." And obviously, can't even wrap my head around 275 jalapenos in 8 minutes. I mean, the poor soul.
Neither can my colon.
Pretty much. But yeah, I mean, so hats off to you, Wolfpack, for I would say probably the week. I guess if we had an award for that. Great tweet out for that. But so that being said, again, just want to say thank you all again so much for tuning in for another Tuffy Talk weekly live show here. Again, we will be going back to Monday, so Monday 8 p.m. So we'll be covering 9 days to covering 5 days.
Well, there'll be no stories next week.
Yeah,
exactly. We're just gonna be sitting here,
Make
sure again. So make sure to tune in with us Monday 8 p.m. back here on our YouTube channel, and make sure again to make sure you do not miss out when we go live. Make sure again hit that subscribe button, and also too, if you haven't checked out part 1 of our interview with Madison Hayes, make sure to go do that right now. And part 2 will be coming out tomorrow, late afternoon, early evening. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. And also to give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter, Instagram, if you haven't already. Again, it's been a very exciting offseason. That's the thing. I mean, for the most part, and it's free to do. It's free to do. So just subscribe and follow us on Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter, Instagram. It's free to do. But thank you all so much again for tuning in. Really do appreciate the support again. And hey, as always, go Pack, y'all. See y'all soon. All right. Thank y'all again.